I haven't been making videos lately. I've just been busy with life, and YouTube is a hobby to me. So I have an interest in Formula One, which you guys probably know if you look through my channel. I have a lot of racing videos. But uh, Formula One is a worldwide sport, but it's more of a European sport. And a lot of racing drivers, come from Europe, come from Finland, come from Brazil, come from Spain, uh, and also Britain and Germany. So it's not really something I talk about here, but I didn't realize one thing. I didn't realize that the Romain Grosjean accident was going to become kind of like nationwide, worldwide, global news. So it wasn't something I saw the accident and it was horrific, but it wasn't something that I talked about on my channel because I didn't realize that anyone would have an interest in it. So we're going to talk about the last, I believe, the oh, you know what? I'm even missing one in here. That's my mistake. I'll talk about it, but I don't have a clip or I don't have a video about it, but it's the big one. But we're going to talk about 5 or 6 different accidents here. And anyway, I'll try to fix it here at the end. But this is Charles Leclerc. Anyway, I'm going to go through these pictures. He had an accident 2 years ago at Spa-Francorchamps with Fernando Alonso on the opening lap where the cars just somebody bumped into the back of Fernando Alonso and then his car jumped in the air and jumped on top of Charles Leclerc's car. And if it weren't for the halo that had just been in for like a month or two at that point, then literally he would have had his head crushed and it would have been like kind of like blunt force trauma, which is kind of very, how do you say, not ironic, but unusual because Charles Leclerc's cousin, who we're going to see in a minute, actually died of blunt force trauma. So we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, here's Fernando Alonso, the guy that popped up into the air by getting hit, and then his car popped onto Charles Leclerc's car. There's a look at it right there. So there's Fernando Alonso in the air, and there's Charles Leclerc underneath in the Sauber, the Alfa Romeo Sauber, and he would have literally he landed partially on that halo. And like I said, there would have been blunt force trauma to the top of his head, but the halo saved Charles Leclerc's life. Okay, you're going to see how the halo, unfortunately, took the life of Jules Bianchi here in just a second. Here's another look at Fernando Alonso and Charles Leclerc. Okay, here's another accident with Niki Lauda. This was at the Nürburgring, and this was basically they were trying to get the race stopped because of wet conditions, and then Niki Lauda actually protested, wanted the race canceled, everything like that. He was on wet tires for the first lap, and then one race car driver. He was a huge competitor, and one race car driver decided not to use wets. So on the second lap, it started to dry up a little bit, and a couple of the drivers went into normal tires. He went into normal tires. A couple turns later, he made a quick left, which is called a chicane, and then kind of a hard sweeping right, and he lost control of the car on the normal tires and kind of like slicks. And he went through the barrier and then he popped back onto the road and then 2 cars hit him and his car went up in flames and he was in there for almost a minute and he suffered burns and actually he lived another 40 years. There's a movie called Rush if you're interested. It's a great movie about him and the rivalry with James Hunt. He went on to win, I believe, 1 or 2 more world championships after this. And also he ended up becoming like the director of Mercedes-Benz Racing, one of the most successful people in Formula One. Absolutely great story, great movie. Once again, it's called Rush with, I'm trying to remember the actor's name. Anyway, I think Chris Hemsworth. Anyway, so this was a horrific accident. He did survive, but then he did have his lungs scorched for the rest of his life with breathing problems. I think that exacerbated or complicated his death, but he did live for another 40 years after this crash, and he died about a year and a half ago. Okay, this is the Romain Grosjean incident into the barriers. The car actually splits in half. I have to be careful with clips from Formula One because the only copyright strike I've ever gotten was from Formula One, but it was like Formula One Asia. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That copyright strike has been long, long gone because I think a copyright strike only lasts 3 months. Okay, there's Romain Grosjean after the accident. I'm trying to get a look at his hands. Yeah, his hands do look scorched. And that's because the glove material is thinner. His visor was also melted and scorched. But the suit is flame retardant. The absolutely perfect protection. The halo is called the survival cell, and it basically saved his life. Okay, there's the survival cell right there. That's crazy. But the car literally just split in half by the barriers. It was almost like the barrier acted like a razor blade and cut right through the car. There's another look at Romain Grosjean. Okay, there's another look at Niki Lauda, who we already talked about. Okay, here's the very unfortunate accident with Jules Bianchi. So basically, Jules Bianchi, I think it's 2014 Suzuka over in Japan, Japanese Grand Prix. Wet conditions. And I don't know if you guys know how it starts out, but it starts out with a bunch of S curves. It's just like this tight S curve, and then it goes into like this kind of not a double helix, but I'm sorry, there is no double helix. That's the wrong word. It goes into this double left-hander, and on the second part of the double left-hander, he goes onto the gravel, and actually that tractor right there was taking another car that had slipped off the double left-hander from wet conditions. He went into that same area in the very front of the tractor. His car went under that front of the tractor that has like the overhang, and he was actually hit in the head with blunt force trauma. He wasn't decapitated. He was in a coma for like another 10 months or a year and then passed away. Anyway, he's the cousin of Charles Leclerc. Horrific accident. The halo would have saved him. Okay, here's a look at Jules Bianchi. Okay, here's a look at the Antoine Hubert incident. Antoine Hubert, was that last year or the year before? I think it was last year. 2019, once again Spa-Francorchamps, but this is Formula 2 racing. They were going up the most beautiful corner in racing called Eau Rouge, which you'll see in just a second. And on the second part of the turn, because it's an incline, he's going through that turn so fast that he kind of slips. And I believe he clips another car. And whenever they start slipping, they'll clip another car and then it'll turn into the barriers. And then he hit the side barrier and lost control. And unfortunately, he passed away. Rest in peace. That is just, and that BWT is his livery. And he was driving for Racing Point, which was that's the Formula 2 team, which is the junior team. Horrific accident, Antoine Hubert. Okay, here's another look at Antoine Hubert right here. That's a little bit closer look at Antoine Hubert. Okay, let's skip forward. Okay, this is Antoine Hubert going up Eau Rouge. After this really tight sweeping right-hander, it goes into a left-hander and then a straight called the Kemmel Straight. And it's right on the left-hander in the Kemmel Straight, right before the Kemmel Straight where he had the accident. And that's the last picture. And then I wanted to talk about the one other is Ayrton Senna or Ayrton Senna. He, in 1994 in Imola, in the San Marino Grand Prix in Imola, Italy, had a horrific accident. He's making a left-hander. He's probably the greatest racing driver of all time in a lot of people's minds. He did not get to finish his career, so we'll never know, but it looks like he was going to be the greatest racing driver of all time. But when he was making a left-hander at Imola, then it looks like his racing column actually broke. And so he couldn't make the left-hander, and his car just went in a straight line, which was unusual. And there was an investigation, but it wasn't conclusive in my mind. But they always investigate what's going on to make it better and better, and that's how the halo came about. But anyway, then when he didn't make the left-hander and he went straight, he went right into the barrier, and I believe he died instantly. Rest in peace. Once again, that's Ayrton Senna, the greatest racing driver of all time. I'll go ahead and end the video here, and then I'll look for a clip of Senna, and then I'll add it to this video. And hopefully you guys liked it. It's painful to express these things. I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit of racing history. It's a very dangerous sport, but they're trying to make it safer and safer. Anyway, that's my video, and take care. Okay, I'm going to add a couple clips here. Okay, this is Ayrton Senna with his car. Not the same car, a different version. That's the famous, I believe it's called an MP22. Okay, that's him, and in the San Marino Grand Prix, he was making a left-hander, but he went a straight line into the wall. Okay, there's another picture right there. And I want to say I'm making this video not to get views or anything. I'm making this video because these are actually horrific accidents, and you know, my deep respects go to their family and all the pain of what their family goes through every time they race, that they know they might lose a loved one. And what can you say? It's just, it's even painful to think about. But when you put something on YouTube, you want to put it in a way that respects the families. And anyway, as they grieve, I'm grieving also. And anyway, that's my video, and take care.